Now, so far, the one element that has not been a part of these talks are the Miami Heat, but we know in trade talks and conversations that can change in one moment with one call.
The Chicago Bulls have one of the best fan bases in the entire NBA, while also being one of the most successful teams that the league has ever seen, winning a mind-boggling 6 championships in the 1990s. The Chicago Bulls have had some great teams since those championships, but they've also had some very weird luck, which feels silly to say, considering that they defied the odds in 08 winning the NBA lottery with less than a 2% chance of doing so. As good as Chicago has been over the years, recently things have taken a turn. Despite their reluctance to undergo an all-out rebuild, they've only had one season with a record of over 500 since 2016-2017, and that one season was the 2021-2022 season, where they would yet again be derailed by injury, going 46-36 en route to getting destroyed in the first round by the Giannis Antetokounmpo-led Milwaukee Bucks. But hey, the offseason leading up to that year would be a big one for Chicago, and I think that should be applauded. That offseason, Chicago was able to make huge splashes, bringing in guys like Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, and DeMar DeRozan, who was legitimately looking like an MVP threat for stretches of that year. So the 2022 offseason for Chicago wouldn't be as eventful as that 2021 one, which I just described. In fact, it would actually be a bit boring. Though they would re-sign Zach LaVine, they wouldn't bring in any game-changing additions, leaving everybody confused about the general direction of their team. Unsurprisingly, the 40 games that Chicago won this past season and playing disappointment that they had wouldn't help to clear up any confusion. This brings us to the present, the 2023 offseason, where the Chicago Bulls have yet again failed to make any big-time acquisitions. But if they have it their way, that won't be the case by the time the season starts, as they've come out of nowhere with some very big plans. But before we get into that, let's hear from today's sponsor. Today's content is brought to you guys by Chime. Chime's online checking account has tons of benefits that millions of members love. My personal favorite is that Chime lets you get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit, all while managing your money on the go 24/7. Let's be real, late fees suck, so why not try to avoid them? Chime also has fee-free overdraft for up to $200 and has over 60,000 fee-free ATMs, which is clutch and more than the top 3 national banks combined. Guys, with Chime, there are no monthly fees, there are no overdraft fees, and Chime doesn't even require you to have a minimum balance. If you're thinking that Chime is simply too good to be true, then find out for yourself. Head on over to chime.com/coop to get started. That's chime.com/coop. Now for that mandatory disclosure. Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. Eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Access to direct deposits up to 2 days early depends on the timing of the submission of the payment file from payer. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply. September 20th, reports would drop that the Chicago Bulls would be interested in Damian Lillard. Not only is this something that I didn't see coming, this is something that I'm not sure makes a lot of sense, and I'll elaborate on that shortly. So according to Kyle Neubeck, the Bulls are sort of a wild card in this situation, but it's been looking like they might be trying to move Zach LaVine as part of a multi-team deal to see if they could get into that Damian Lillard sweepstakes. Mind you, that we've seen reports surface earlier this offseason that the Chicago Bulls have actually been checking the temperature on Zach LaVine's market throughout the offseason, which to no surprise, Zach LaVine hasn't really been too excited about. When I saw those reports earlier in the offseason about the Bulls checking the temperature with Zach LaVine, I thought for sure that this was because they were mulling over the possibility of a rebuild, which would make a ton of sense to me. Much more sense than them going all out and mortgaging their future for Damian Lillard. Guys, the reality of things for Chicago is that we have no idea when Lonzo Ball is returning. DeMar DeRozan just made 34. It might not be the worst idea to go out and get some assets for what you have and start a rebuild. I get that Chicago is this massive market with this great fan base, and maybe not everybody over there would embrace a rebuild. But the thing about rebuilds is that they don't have to imitate the process. They don't have to be unbearable. Your team does not have to be absolutely horrific. We've seen successful rebuilds occur over the course of a few seasons. In my opinion, it's all about knowing when to tear it down and move to that next step. Guys, I loved that 2021-2022 Bulls team as much as anybody, but even when they were good enough to be the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, they still struggled against elite teams, going 0-16 against the top 3 teams from each conference. So guys, are the Chicago Bulls really the team that needs to be trading for Damian Lillard? So what complicates any potential Lillard trade for the Bulls is that Damian Lillard wants to go to the Heat so bad that there are serious threats out there floating around that he won't report to camp if he doesn't land in Miami, and he'll actually request another trade to the Heat if the Blazers sent him elsewhere. This report actually conflicts with the earlier report that said that Dame would lock in and perform wherever he was traded. Note that Dame has been out here posting that he's a freaking future Heat legend to his Instagram. Dame hasn't reached that James Harden level yet, but at this point, if this situation doesn't get resolved, I would not be surprised to see Damian Lillard bust out a fat suit. That's how wild things are getting, and I guess that's today's NBA. So on top of all of this for Chicago, the Blazers flat out don't even want Zach LaVine in the first place, and why would they? Zach LaVine is a great player and an even better scorer who averaged nearly 25 points per game last season on 48.5% from the field while being one of the best shooters in the league. But the Blazers are already loaded with young talent at the guard position, and he just doesn't match the Blazers' timeline. The Portland Trail Blazers didn't betray the wishes of Damian Lillard, refusing to push all of their chips in so that they could go out and build a team around Zach LaVine. Honestly, with that contract that Zach has, I'm not sure that trading him to another team in order to acquire assets would even get the Bulls what they needed to make a competitive offer for Dame. But of course, there's always that chance that I'm wrong. Now, while a Damian Lillard to the Chicago Bulls trade doesn't make much sense to me, there has been some momentum on a potential Damian Lillard move happening, even if Woj is currently saying that no trade is imminent. Not only have the Blazers broken weeks of silence, but the Suns have also emerged as a dark horse team to help facilitate a potential trade, which according to Gambo 987, they have their eyes set on a defensive-minded center for Vogel to build their defense around, which apparently in this scenario means that they're interested in Yusuf Nurkic, who hasn't been good on defense for a very long time and is just an overall worse player than Ayton. I know what you guys are thinking, and this report confused me also. There's no way that the Suns want to move Ayton that bad, right? Vogel talked him up a lot this offseason, and I was actually looking forward to seeing what he would be able to accomplish in Phoenix this year. So when it comes to Phoenix potentially facilitating this trade that we've been talking about, per GoPhoenix.com, Philadelphia, Miami, Portland, Toronto, and Chicago are all teams to pay attention to. Now, while I'm personally taking the Portland Trail Blazers reportedly engaging with all of these other teams as them trying to raise the price that Miami would have to pay, Woj is telling a bit different of a story. In fact, according to Woj, the Miami Heat haven't been involved in the latest Damian Lillard trade talks at all. To quote him, those talks have intensified this week with Damian Lillard, but there's still no trade imminent. So far, the one element that has not been a part of these talks are the Miami Heat. Apparently, Portland have been flat out refusing to talk to Miami, which I would have to say is either a nasty leverage play or just them being incredibly petty. Guys, in the comments below, let me know if you think that there's really a possibility that Damian Lillard ends up someplace other than Miami. Is there really a dark horse team out there that makes a ton of sense for him? Have I been wrong about everything, and is he actually going to the Chicago Bulls after all of this? Guys, again, let me know what you think of everything going on down in the comments below. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.